Of the ending, my man's lending me his lending, 42 shots dependent on whether or not the clip is full to the top.
Yo, what's good? How y'all doing? Welcome back to yet another mock draft right here. This is the fourth one, I think. Mock drafts do really good on this channel, and I really enjoy making them. Mock drafts, they're the combination of NFL with college football, and it's really fun putting them together. But this time we got something a little different. We're gonna get right into it. One second. Let's hop right into it. This is gonna be an auto pick mock draft, basically meaning I'm gonna let the computer make each pick and just react to it, and whether or not I like it and stuff like that. It adds an element of randomness in there, and I'm excited, man. Let's get right into it. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm not sure who is gonna pick. I'm also not gonna make any trades either. So, the Bears are gonna keep the number one pick in this scenario, and we'll see what they do. Let's get right into it. I'm excited. Uh, let's start the draft right here, man. Bears with the first pick. Before they actually make that pick, let's talk about it. So if they keep the first pick, right, it's incredibly likely that they draft a quarterback, right? Because I don't think you make Marv the number one pick as a receiver. It would be cool, but you get so much value for trading that pick. Talking about Fields lately, obviously he struggled mightily against the Vikings. They still won the game, but you could convince me on anything, honestly, that the Bears are going to do with this first pick. So let's get into it. Let's see what they do. Got them taking Caleb Williams. Okay. I think in my very first mock draft I did about a month or so ago, I had them sticking at number one and taking Caleb. You know, in this situation, you'd probably want to trade Fields, I feel like, before the draft if this took place, right? Because you'd get way more value than if you waited till afterwards. Um, Caleb to the Bears, I like it, man. He has all the traits you'd want in a franchise quarterback. I think he is going to succeed even in Chicago. They're not that horrible of a situation, to be honest. They got their number one receiver in DJ Moore. Their offensive line is actually kind of coming together. Their running back room is solid, if nothing else. You'd obviously like some more pass catchers. Cole Kmet. I mean, between Kmet and DJ Moore, that's kind of a pretty good tandem in and of itself right there moving forward. So getting Caleb in there, I think he'd do well in Chicago. And as far as the Bears are concerned, if you move Fields before the draft and take Caleb at number one, I wouldn't be mad at it whatsoever. Patriots at two. This is the highest they've been drafting. It has to be quarterback here. If it doesn't give the Patriots quarterback, I'm going to be mightily confused. Okay, Marvin Harris. Look, I hate this, man. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, but I hate this. Drake May is on the board, man. Marvin, who's your quarterback, man? If the Patriots did this, who's your quarterback? You're just rolling with Mac again, bro? I don't see how. I would guarantee you Mac Jones and Bill Belichick will not both be on the Patriots next season. I'm sorry, bro. There's just no way. And if one of them aren't on the Patriots, I feel like you have to draft a fucking quarterback. It makes no sense, man. I don't like this pick. I'm sorry, man. Because now a quarterback's gonna fall away farther than they should. Okay, whatever. This is why I did the auto pick. It adds an element of randomness in there. Let's pretend that this makes any bit of sense. So the Patriots stick at two. They take Marvin Harrison. Who's your quarterback? Who knows? Maybe they get one out of free agency. Maybe they trade for Justin Fields or who knows. But you'd have to get a new quarterback in there. Marvin Harrison, look, they're in desperate need of wide receiver. I'm not going to pretend like they don't need wide receiver, right? But I think sticking at two, drafting Drake May, and then drafting, I don't know, a Jalen Polk, Xavier Leggett, a Troy Franklin at the top of the second round, I think that makes a lot more sense for them. Looking at the Cardinals at number three. They take Liatu Latu. I'm not upset at this. If you're the Cardinals in this situation and Marv is off the board, taking the best defensive player makes a lot of sense, and Liatu is that guy, in my opinion. I've talked about him a lot already. He had extreme medical concerns at Washington, where he started his college football career, had to medically retire at some point, but ended up coming back and he's dominating. He's been dominant at UCLA, and he has all the traits, a combination of power and speed. He's a little up there in age. I don't think that matters, especially for defensive linemen. teams do not care about how old you are as a defensive lineman. So I think Liatu is a lock for the top 10, quite frankly. The question is just where. The Cardinals at 3, it's very possible. I think there's a very good chance Liatu Latu is the first defensive player off the board. Commanders at 4. I don't think quarterback is an option here. So is it Brock Bowers? Is it the best offensive lineman? Do you try and replace, the 2 edge rushers you traded at the deadline? Let's see. I'm curious with this one. It is going to be Brock Bowers. And that's kind of the obvious one, right? This is the thing for me with the Commanders. What pick can you make which improves your offense in the most ways? I think Brock, if you drafted Olufashanu or Joe Alt, it would improve your pass protection and run blocking on one side of your offensive line. But if you drafted Brock Bowers, you would immediately be getting possibly the best tight end prospect ever. Let's get that out the way. But you'd be getting a guy who also improves your pass and run blocking on whatever side you put him on, but just a deadly pass catching option. And I'm sure Sam Howell would love with how quickly he has to get the ball out due to the pressure from the Commanders not having an O line. Having Brock Bowers there, I think, is a very good fit. Knowing Eric Bieniemy, I'd like Eric Bieniemy to just be the next head coach of the Commanders and trying to recreate kind of what Mahomes and Kelsey got going in Kansas City. I just like the pick. I think it improves them dramatically all across their offense. Bears' second pick, though, you took quarterback. Is this receiver Malik Neighbors? Is this defense tackle? Let's see. It is Malik Neighbors. I like look Malik Neighbors. If you would have told me 3-4 months ago would be top 5, I don't think I would have believed it. But he has put together a dominant season where he has showcased really everything you need to see. Man, he has all the measurables. That's not a question. He has amazing hands. He gets separation at all 3 levels. He has run after the catch, he has amazing run after the catch potential when he gets the ball in his hands in the open field. I mean, there's really no flaws in Malik Neighbors' game, to be honest. The only thing is that I would say he doesn't, he's not a generational talent in one specific area. Like Keon Coleman, you throw it up to him, he's coming down with it. Marvin Harrison, his route running, his size speed combination. Malik Neighbors is just very good across the board everywhere. And for the Bears, if you pair Caleb with Malik Neighbors, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, that's a hey. If you're a Bears fan, you walk away from this draft very happy if you walk away with Caleb and Malik Neighbors, in my opinion. Jets at 6. This just has to be tackle. I'm not even going to entertain the possibility that this is anything besides tackle. And it's Drake May. Oh man, you have both tackles on the board and you draft Drake May. Look, in this situation, let's talk about this because this actually is interesting. So, you assume Aaron Rodgers comes back and plays next season, right? So Drake May, a young quarterback, I think he's only 21 years old or maybe even 20 years old. So he sits for a year behind Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, he steps right in, obviously. What I don't love is that this doesn't address the fact that their offensive line's god awful. You got some players on there. You got Mekhi Becton, you got Elijah Vera Tucker, but you got it's just not enough, man, clearly, because they can't protect anybody for any length of time. So Drake May, hopefully, by the time he plays, which would be 2 years from now, they would have figured that out. But I just don't love that, man. I think Joe Alt and Fashanu are on the board, man. They're on the board. And I know Drake May is a great prospect who certainly won't even be here at number 6, but I don't know, man. It's a weird pick for the Jets that I haven't even considered up to this point. But it makes a little bit of sense, I guess, if he sits behind Rodgers for a year and then you got your franchise quarterback moving forward. But I don't know. That's a really weird pick right there for the Jets. Giants at 7 has to be tackle, right? Yeah, it is. Olufashanu makes sense. Evan Neal has been a bust up to this point. That's very fair to say. Their offensive line, we understand the Giants have had one of the worst offensive lines consistently for a lot of years in a row now. Fashanu certainly helps that. And, I'd be willing to bet that Fashanu and Andrew Thomas, it's just you're good moving forward, right? You have your franchise tackles and you take Evan Neal inside, hopefully, and hope that he can still produce and be an NFL player. If not, you just got to cut bait with him, I guess. But Giants need improvement on the offensive line. Olufashanu is an immediate improvement. That's a good pick right there. Titans at 8. Let's see. Joe Alt makes no sense. The Titans are in desperate need of offensive line help, almost as desperately as the Giants and Jets. Joe Alt, they drafted Skoronski last year. He's been playing inside. He a big thing with him was his measurables not, necessarily meeting the physical requirements to play tackle in the NFL. But I think he's been doing a good job at guard so far. So if they could pick up the tackle in Joe Alt, which is a very safe prospect, safe pick, that's a great move for the Titans at 8. You know, he might not even be available at this spot, in the actual draft. So if he's there at that spot, that's a pick that they need to make, so that's a good one right there. Saints at 9, they keep losing, man, keep moving up. But they take Rome Odunze. That's interesting because Chris Olave, he's not that big. He's a very good route runner. He focuses on separation, not really a big body threat. Romo Dunze provides you that and then some. Top 10. That's the first time I think I really considered him top 10. But the Saints, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. The real thing would be Romo Dunze over Keon Coleman. He certainly had a better season than Keon Coleman, but that's because, I mean, obviously we know what's happened with Florida State in their passing game. But I mean, this is the thing. I don't mind the Odunze pick. Do I like it more than, for example, a Fuaga right here? I'm not sure. It's still the thing with Michael Thomas. I just is it just over? Is the dream dead? Is it far too late for him to actually return to some sort of Pro Bowl level form? Probably. So do they look to move on? That might be a really good pick. I like it, honestly. I think he'd do very well in New Orleans with Derek Carr and Olave and Kamara and all them. That could be a high-powered offense if they actually get a competent OC in there. But hell no, I haven't thought about that for the same. That's why I like this so far. I'm thinking of some new scenarios that I haven't thought of yet. So that's interesting. Bucks here. If I had to say, I'd say Keon Coleman, but I mean, look, you see they have needs everywhere. Let's see what they do. Jazon Newton, I really don't like this. You drafted Kalijah Cansey last season. Unless you think one of the two of them could move outside, maybe. I don't. And you already have Vita Vea, man. If I had to give you one position that the Buccaneers didn't need to draft, it would be the interior defensive line. So yeah, I mean, the auto pick is not going to be perfect. This is a swing and a miss right here, in my opinion. Raiders at 11 has to be quarterback, right? And it's not quarterback. It's Chop Robinson. Wow. Okay. Well, you drafted Tyree Wilson in the top 10 last season. We have not seen much of him yet. Chandler Jones is off being crazy somewhere. Max Crosby is a top player in the league, but how much longer does he have with the Raiders? I am not sure. Chop Robinson and Tyree Wilson. That's intriguing. I cannot lie, that's intriguing. Is Aiden O'Connell your quarterback in this situation? I mean, you got Michael Penix, Bo Nix, and Jane Daniels all on the board here. I don't know how the auto draft feels about those guys, but that seems like a pretty good plethora of options for the Raiders. Chop Robinson, he's not a bad pick whatsoever. He probably is the best speed rusher in the whole class. I mean, he gets the quarterback in the blink of an eye. For the Raiders specifically, I don't know how I feel about that pick. It's interesting. Certainly it's interesting. If I didn't go quarterback, I might be inclined to take defensive line. So that's, it's an intriguing pick. I'll say that. Chargers at 12. Jared Verse, okay. D line. I mean, this was probably going to be D line or secondary if it was not Brock Bowers. I would have liked to seen some secondary here, to be honest. Kool-Aid McKinstry, Nate Wiggins on the board. But Jared Verse, you can't be mad at it. Khalil Mack is having damn near a career year, really. I mean, Khalil Mack, nobody's talking about him for Defensive Player of the Year, but he has been a monster so far for the Chargers. Joey Bosa getting up there in age, to be honest. I don't know how old he is, but I feel like he's been on the Chargers for like 5, 6, 7 years now. So do you have a long-term plan at edge rusher? I'm not sure. Jared Verse might be that guy. And if nothing else, he adds a lot of depth to that room day one. So I like that pick. Jared Verse, I usually underrate him in these mock drafts. I usually don't have him going to like the 20s or something. So seeing him top 12, I like it. I like it for the Chargers. Bengals at 13 is this wide receiver, is this tackle, D line. Nate Wiggins, interesting. This is very because the Bengals have been going after secondary a lot in their last couple of drafts. I mean, just last year you took DJ Turner, Jordan Battle. The year before you took Cam Taylor Britt, Dax Hill. Where does Nate Wiggins fit in here? I mean, you still got Awuzie. Cam Taylor Britt's been good. DJ Turner was a first round pick, still a rookie. Or was he a second round? I'm not sure, but he was a pretty high pick. That's I don't know. Nate Wiggins a good player. I'm certain he'd find some playing time, but I guess you just create a very, very good young DB room in Cincinnati. I don't hate the pick. He's a very good player. Certainly would go top 20 in my opinion. I certainly have not thought about that going from one Tiger to another. Clemson to Cincinnati. Interesting. Interesting. Bills at 14. A lot of options. A lot of options. They go Dallas Turner. You can't be mad at that. Von Miller has not pounded out this season. You got a couple guys there. You got AJ Epineza, Gregory Rousseau. Dallas Turner, though, he, according to a lot of people, is the best prospect. He's a lot younger than guys like Latu and Jared Verse. He's more well-rounded than a Chop Robinson. Dallas Turner, I think, if I had to bet on a guy 10 years from now to be, the best pass rush from this class, it might be Dallas Turner. Um, so I like that pick for the Bills. Defensive line, if there's a young stud defensive lineman in the draft and you take him, you're not going to see much complaints out of me. So Dallas Turner to the Bills, not something I've considered personally. I usually go either wide receiver or secondary here, but Dallas Turner, that's interesting, man. Yeah. I know I'm saying it's interesting a lot, but it really is. I mean, I have not considered Dallas Turner to the Bills yet, but if he were to go there, it would be a massive, you know, boost to their potential moving forward on that defensive line. Broncos at 15. I'm thinking receiver. They think Jaden Daniels. Wow. Okay. Jaden Daniels to the Broncos. So after this season, Russell have played 2 years. The Broncos signed him to a very long extension. I'm assuming Russ has to play at least one more. This is the thing I don't like, right? If you're going to draft a quarterback in the first round, this is the thing, because the Broncos, they're a fringe playoff team right now. It's worked this season. They started off horribly. They gave up 70 points to the Dolphins, right? But they've been good of late. And you're telling me that a fringe playoff team is going to spend their first round pick on a guy that won't even play next year? If you can find a trade for Russ, now that's very different. We don't get that type of context here. Yeah, I don't like the pick, man. You got Keon Coleman on the board, man. I think receiver has to be in play here. Maybe even secondary, pairing Kool-Aid back up with Pat Surtain. I don't know if they were ever even teammates, but I don't know. There's a couple options here I'd like a lot more than Jaden Daniels to the Broncos. They're not a QB team, in my opinion. Over here it says that that's their number one need, but how are you going to trade Russ? And if you're not going to trade Russ, how many years is Daniels going to sit behind Russ? It's just, yeah, I don't love it. I don't love that pick. My Seahawks, who do we take? Cooper DeJean, very interesting. So we go 3 straight years trying to get a Pro Bowl level corner. I like it. I like it. I mean, we already, Tariq Woolen was an A+ pick. Pro Bowler year one. Devon Witherspoon, A+ pick. Pro Bowler certainly, possibly even an All Pro year one. And is Cooper DeJean next in line? I've said a lot of good things this year about Cooper DeJean, mainly that he has versatility. I think Cooper DeJean could play the slot, boundary, free safety, and maybe strong safety in the NFL. He can play anywhere in the secondary. A guy like that, usually I like to see Witherspoon in the slot. So if we could have DeJean as a free safety, maybe both of our safeties are aging, Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams. But I mean, it's an immediate upgrade over, I mean, a Michael Jackson or but I mean, I like a guy, like like on his fucking name, Trey Brown. I like a Trey Brown, but Cooper DeJean obviously has a lot more upside than him. He's a playmaker, man. I think he'd instantly be a punt and a kick returner for us. I don't know. I don't know. Cooper DeJean to the Seahawks. I can see it now. I can see it now. Not something I thought of before, but I like it. I like it, you know? We'll talk about a young secondary there, man. Cooper DeJean, Tariq Woolen, and Devon Witherspoon. Wow. I'm getting a little excited now, I'm not gonna lie. I like that pick. Rams up at 17. They take Kool-Aid. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I've made this pick. Damn it, I got the Cardinals up there too. Specifically talking about the Rams. I've made this pick for them before when they were drafting a little higher. If Kool-Aid falls to 17 and you take him, obviously do it. I don't think the Rams have anything going in their secondary as of right now. They need help everywhere. Kool-Aid hopefully would be an instant day one number one corner. That's what they'd be hoping for. And I'm not mad at that whatsoever. Cardinals taking Ibuka. Who did they take with the first pick? They took Liatu Latu, I believe. So yeah, I think receiver is a big need. Emeka has not had a very good season this year at Ohio State. Certainly not comparative to what he did last year. I think a lot of that had to do with injuries. A lot of that being Kyle McCord is not very good, not very talented. But I still think he's a first round receiver. 18, that's a little high though, in my opinion, especially since we haven't even seen a guy like Keon Coleman go off the board. Emeka, I'm assuming you'd like to put him in the slot. You can play outside as well. I mean, I've seen people just label him as slot receiver in the NFL. I don't see that. I think he could play anywhere. You got Michael Wilson from last year's draft. Who do you keep between Greg Dortch, Rondell Moore, Marquise Brown? It's a very deep, talented wide receiver room if you draft Emeka, but not even including Trey McBride. So Cardinals offense would, that add a spark certainly. Still trying to build around Kyler. I could see it. I could see it now that I think about it. Receiver certainly has been in play the whole time when I'm looking to draft with the Cardinals, but Emeka has not been the guy I've considered up to this point. It's kind of a weird value. I don't really know where Emeka is going to go. He could go in the top 20 or he could fall to the late 20s or even the 30s. So that's something that we're going to have to wait and see. Falcons at 19. Is it quarterback? There's a couple on the board. It is quarterback. Bo Nix. I think I had them taking Bo Nix in my last mock draft. It just makes the most sense to me. I mean, the Falcons are a QB away from being not only a playoff team, but maybe even a pretty good playoff team. Their defense has surprised a lot of people, including me this year. Their run game, obviously, we know what they can do. A good offensive line so far. They have the weapons outside, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. They're just a quarterback away. Ritter has not been good enough. They've tried to go to Heineke at times. It's not enough. Bo Nix, I think, his biggest quality coming in is his decision making. Decision making at the quarterback position means you can play day one. You don't try and force the ball. We saw him make a boneheaded play in the Pac-12 championship, trying to extend the play. It was out of character for him. He really does not do that often. He has the mobility to escape the pocket, really sneaky athleticism. I know we say that all the time about white quarterbacks, but he actually is like a pretty athletic guy. Like I would actually say, like if we look at the array of quarterbacks here, he's certainly in the top like handful as far as athleticism, just raw athleticism. I like his arm. It's not a great arm, but he gets the ball pinpoint accuracy where he wants it to go. I think Bo Nix on the Falcons, they're a playoff team day one. With him, I think they win the NFC South. I think he's a very good player with those weapons around him. If nothing else, just a game manager, because that's what they're looking for out of Desmond Ritter. He has not been delivering. So I like the pick. I really like the pick for the Falcons at 19, taking Bo Nix. Packers at 20. A lot of options. A lot of options. They go Braylon Trice. The Packers, they were at like number 7 or 8 just a couple weeks ago. Now they've won a couple games all the way up to 20. Braylon Trice is a guy who I have not really considered in a lot of mock drafts. I think my last mock draft was the first one. I had him going in the first round. I think he leads the country, if not the country, certainly the Pac-12 in just pressures. So he has been dominant really this season. I couldn't tell you much about him besides that. I need to start doing more research on Braylon Trice because it seems like a foregone conclusion now that he's going to be a first round pick. Talking about the Packers specifically here, going edge rusher. You got Rashawn Gary. You drafted DeAndre Wide. He's more of an interior guy. how long is Preston Smith going to be there? You try to think about how many. Oh, you drafted Lucas Van Ness last year too, so you're just trying to add to a already promising defensive line. Certainly, I mean, there's nothing wrong. I mean, defensive line is one of those things where it's like defensive line and cornerback is a thing where it's like I'm never going to be mad at a team for drafting those two. Those two positions are in such high demand in the NFL. When a team drafts someone, I'm just like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So the Packers taking Braylon Trice here, I don't mind. What else could they take here? You could say a tackle, which I don't love at this spot. Wide receiver, nah, not really. Secondary, I wouldn't mind whatsoever. But taking Braylon Trice here, it's pretty good value to be honest. Vikings. I feel like this has to be Michael Penix, right? Let's see. Let's see. It is J.C. Latham. I have not for a second considered offensive tackle to the Vikings. I know they have Christian Darrisaw. Who is on that other side? Is it fuck. Can't remember his name. Cannot remember his name. Interesting. I haven't even considered J.C. Latham. I didn't think tackle was that big of a need for them. If it is though, J.C. Latham's a pretty good option. I assume he would start day one if it's that big of a need for them. I don't love the pick though because comparatively, Michael. I mean, you don't have a quarterback if you're the Vikings. I don't. I look. I've talked about this before. I don't think re-signing Kirk Cousins is the move. Will he even be ready for Week 1 next season? I don't know. If he is, then you got a 35, 36-year-old quarterback coming off a career-threatening injury who you just paid certainly a bunch of money to in order to re-sign him in the first place. I just don't like that. Why would you bring Kirk back for a whole fuck ton of money when you can draft a quarterback and pay him a small percentage, a fraction of what you would pay Kirk? So I love the prospect of drafting a quarterback if you're the Vikings. So passing on that to draft a tackle, which I didn't even think was a need for them in the first place, it's questionable at best. Colts at 22, a lot of options. This is interesting. Amarius Mims is a guy who is a physical freak. Think Broderick Jones from years before, Georgia offensive tackle. The only thing I don't like about this is I'm not sure if he's going to declare. I have seen people which know a lot more about college football in the draft than me say that they think he's going to come back for another year at Georgia and be a top 5 to 10 pick next season. I have no fucking clue. In my last mock draft, I said that I was not going to draft Amarius Mims based off the assumption that he would return to Georgia. Well, this auto draft does not make that assumption. They think he's going to be eligible, and they have the Colts taking him, which I like. The Colts offensive line, it's so weird. It was like 2, 3 years ago, it was like one of the best in the league, and then last season it was awful. This season, I couldn't tell you how good it's been. I have to assume it's pretty good to be, what, 6-6 and or 7-6 with Gardner Minshew. But if you were to get Amarius Mims in there, I love it. I love it. The Colts have a lot of needs, but let me say it like this: the Colts have a lot of areas to improve, but they don't really have a lot of needs, like pressing needs. They're a good team. If they had a good quarterback right now, they'd probably be a 9, 10 win team already. So getting Amarius Mims in there, if nothing else, as a project who has the upside of being one of the best left tackles in football, yeah, I don't mind that pick at all. Moving on to the Steelers, who just lost tonight to the Patriots. Cam Kitchens, I like it. I mean, I know you already have Minka. You have a couple guys trying to fill that other safety spot. You drafted Joey Porter last season. Cam Kitchens is very good value. I've been struggling to find a spot for him in like the top 28 or 27. But the Steelers might be that spot. I've had them going corner like every single time. But Cam Kitchens certainly, I think, comes in and starts day one alongside Minka. And he's a very talented player, man. It's tough to see him not going where he should, which is really the top 20. But I think the Steelers at 23 is a good landing spot. The player fits the team need. It's a no-brainer, really. So I like that pick. Texans at 24, I think it has to be secondary. And it's not. It's Keon Coleman. Look, I almost forgot that he just kept on falling this far. Keon Coleman to the Texans at 24. I have talked to Texans fans, and they say it's absolutely cornerback or bust. They say, please give us help in the secondary. And I hear you, Texans fans. However, Keon Coleman's on the fucking board. I know Nico Collins and Tank Dell have been balling so far, I know you got young players like Xavier Hutchinson and John Mechie and other guys in the wings waiting. But if you got Keon Coleman there, man, I don't think you could pass up on that. You got guys like Kalen King, Terrion Arnold, Kamari Lassner, Josh Newton on the board, but man, I don't think any of those.
I know these headphones will die halfway through. I don't think any of those guys have the upside at cornerback that Keon Coleman has at wide receiver in the Texans system. Keep in mind, a lot of the shit involved with being a receiver is where you go and who your quarterback is. If you go to the Texans and your quarterback is CJ Stroud for 10 to 15 years, that's a pretty damn good situation, right? So Keon Coleman at 24, that's a great pick, man. That would be one of the steals of the draft if he were to fall all the way down to the Texans, which I think is possible. He was getting so much hype the first month or two of the season, but as he's kind of not been getting as many targets later in the season, I think a fall is possible. I think a team is going to just say fuck it and draft him solely based off his physical traits and his measurables, but he could slip a lot farther than we think is possible for him. All it would take is a team liking a guy like Romo Dunze more, and he falls 4 or 5 spots. The Chiefs all the way up to 25. I doubt they're going to be picking at 25, but they take Leonard Taylor. I don't love it, man. They already took Felix Anzadike, whatever, last year in the first round. I don't even know how he's doing. But to pass on a wide receiver here and take Leonard Taylor, wide receiver is just the biggest need for the Chiefs by a mile, man. They could make a trade. They could certainly make a trade for a guy that they like, but you got Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, Jalen Polk, Glad McConkey. You just got a bunch of guys on the board here that I think would help your team a lot more than a guy like Leonard Taylor. Not saying he's not a very good player, but outside of Johnny Newton, I'm not taking any interior defensive lineman in the first round. That's just me personally. So Leonard Taylor at 25 to the Chiefs, who already have Chris Jones and Felix, whatever. I don't love that pick. Jags at 26. Let's see. Kalen King, it's good value. It's good value. I've heard from Jaguars fans that secondary is not as big a need as it may seem. They have Tyson Campbell, they have Darius Williams, I believe. Kalen King certainly would have a spot in there, but compared to, I think they need help on both lines of scrimmage. I think Kalen King, it's a good pick. I'm not going to hate on it too much. If they got Kalen King at 26, I would shut up and say that's good value. Good job, Jaguars, and you have a very young and promising secondary all of a sudden in Jacksonville. Cowboys 27. Oh my God, I forgot Fuaga. Yeah, that's a great pick. Oh my goodness, that's a great pick. Tyron Smith aging, Fuaga falling and plummeting. Man, he could go in the top 10. For him to fall to 27, that would be a nightmare for him, but a great pick for the Cowboys all the way at 27, getting your possibly franchise tackle in Fuaga, a mauler in the run game. He is big, he's physical, he's nasty, and I'm sure the Cowboys would love to have him at 27. That's great value, man. I can't even hate on that. Lions at 28. Tyler Nubin, yeah, it has to be secondary, in my opinion. I haven't really considered safety over corner. I know that CJ Gardner-Johnson was a 1-year rental, so I'm guessing Tyler Nubin would be the replacement for that. I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. Yeah, he's a good player. He would be your starting safety for a lot of years. You got Cam Sutton in the free agency last year. I assume you try and pick up another starter this offseason. So it's a slow but steady improvement to the secondary, which I think is their biggest need they need to address. Niners at 29. It is A.D. Mitchell. Wow, that's scary. Wow. I've seen a couple mock drafts that have the Niners taking receiver. And I kind of get it. I kind of get it. They're missing another guy who can stretch the field vertically, and A.D. Mitchell would be that guy. It's scary to think how much better this offense could get if they had A.D. Mitchell. It would make this offense better, man. Oh, man, I don't even want to think about that. That would be a great pick for the Niners. look, as a Seahawks fan, that really does make me cringe, man. That's scary. That I don't know. It's scary good is the thing. Graham Barton to the Ravens. I have not considered offensive line for them, especially when you got guys like Xavier Worthy on the board. And take your pick of corner, man. Josh Newton, Terry Arnold, Kamari Lassiter. Why are you taking a tackle here? Don't look at me. Don't look. This is an auto pick. It's not. Uh, Yeah, I don't love it. I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't love this pick. Man. This has to be DB or receiver for me if you're the Ravens. Dolphins, though, Xavier Leggett. Oh my God, why would you try to improve this receiver room? That would be a massive get for the Dolphins, man. Xavier Leggett. Just add another young stud to the Dolphins, man, because then I think you'd have Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, and Xavier Leggett then all on a rookie I think Tua's on a rookie contract too. So you got a lot of guys making not a lot of money. That's why they can go and trade for guys like Jalen Ramsey, man. It's a great situation for the Dolphins. They can do anything with this pick, honestly. They're going to have a pick in the late 20s, early 30s. And, adding a toy to that offense like Xavier Leggett, it's scary, man. I don't even want to. When good teams like the Eagle or the Niners and the Dolphins draft receivers, it's just scary, man. So any receiver on the board would help them tremendously, and that's a great gift for the Dolphins. Who do the Eagles take? We have to scroll down for it. Let's see. Eagles take Terry Arnold. That's a great pick, man. That's a fucking great pick. You picked up Eli Ricks, undrafted free agent last season, and you drafted Keely Ringo, but I think Bradbury and Darius Slay would be departing in the near future. Terry Arnold at 32 is great value. He has been playing out of his mind this season. Probably going to be an All-American if he hasn't. I don't even know when they release those teams, but I would bet he would be on that list. It's good value, man. They need a new wave of guys in that secondary, and I think Terry Arnold would be one of the prominent faces in that movement. That's going to be it for this video, man. I hope y'all liked that mock draft. It was a little different, It's not me giving what I think would be the best fits or anything like that. It is, it was an auto draft. Couple questionable ones in there, but they had a couple picks in there which I had not considered up to that point. So it's going to make me think about some things, man. But I hope y'all enjoyed, man. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you're new, and I'm going to catch you on the next one, man. Peace.
It's out the motherfucking pack. Right out the niggas don't know how to act.